Start with fire, add oil, let it simmer. From the crew at 58 Surf and Stab, this isn't just a podcast, it's a sensory experience. Fresh from the coast, full of flavor, and prepared to perfection. Well, kinda. This is 58 Surf and Turf. Let's get cooked. All right, 58 Surf and Turf. That's our surf and turf. Our dish. This is our guest, Simon Charlesworth, the general manager of Billabong Europe. Simon, pleasure to see you.
Nice to see you too, Buck.
It's been a few times this year, actually, that you've already been down to Portugal.
Yeah. Came down for Capilto, down in Carcavelos. We were a sponsor there, so it's sick to come to that. And then up at the CT in Peniche, we had a little camp where we got all the riders from Europe together. Just try and create some vibes, always bring the team together once a year. We did it in France one year, Spain the next, and then obvious place to come would be Portugal after that. So it was cool.
Nice.
Good vibes.
And now you're here with your family, I believe?
Yes, I'm here with my family, just taking a week out. I think they get sick of dad enforcing surf trips on them, but they get used to it. So we've had a few waves together as a family. It's pretty cool.
I've got, my daughter's almost 9 months old, and I really want her to surf, because when I think about the next years of my life, the next eras of my life, I really want to be able to, make a family trip, a surf trip. So you're doing well, my friend.
I'm pretty sure as a father, you can insist that they do.
Yeah, that might have to be what happens.
Although I hope none of my kids are listening to me say that, because
you tell them all their
quite
secrets
often
here.
They're like, Dad, why is everything about surfing? Why do we always have to go surfing? I'm like, honestly, kids, if you don't want to surf, you don't have to. But I might not be your dad for much longer.
Maybe you should just take them to just a painfully boring museum or something. Just find the most boring museum, like a stamp museum. Be like, here, we're not surfing, kids. We went on a trip to the stamp museum.
Or one
check
of
out the
those
stamps.
Or one of those package holidays where you go away, and I'm like, I actually, if I didn't have surfing in my life, I don't know, what would you do when you go on holiday?
I don't know.
I just don't understand it when people book those. They go to a hotel for 2 weeks. One example, Dubai.
Yeah.
Because you can only drink when you're in a hotel there. And surely if you're not going surfing, then you're going on holiday, you need to drink excessively, because
what else?
What else is there?
Could be a problem.
I actually play golf. I don't mind admitting that. So I could just about do a golfing holiday, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with you. You kind of need something though, or I couldn't really imagine a trip without some sort of activity to focus on. Otherwise, you just, especially maybe it's for a weekend to check out a new city or something. But
absolutely,
if you're doing a week or two in just some new place without a real thing to do, I don't know, lose your mind.
But then the surfing thing drives you crazy as well.
Yeah, surfing, it does drive us crazy.
Finding waves, finding your wave. There's always someone in the way, someone that wants your wave. Too many people, never the right wind, never the right tide, never the right swell. But that's my luck.
But when it all comes together, my friend. So did you grow up in coastal UK?
I was born on the outskirts of London. My parents were ran their own photographic company in central London, but they always had this desire to go to the coast. And I remember going to Cornwall for all of our summer holidays and staying in a little caravan. And then I think eventually they just realized that they love the ocean. It would be a great place for the kids to grow up. So they moved down to Cornwall when I was 14. I've got two younger brothers, so I won't even try and recall what ages they were then. They just were quite close, but a few years below me. And that gave me my real opportunity to get into surfing. Yeah.
Was that just the best news ever for you at 14? Or were you kind of nervous to lose a friend group where you were?
Oh, it was actually really crap news, because I played football. Shows how long I've been an expat if I have to refer to it as soccer. Sorry, any UK listeners. I was playing football on Saturdays for my school and Sundays for my club, and then a bizarre sport for most people across Europe here. I was playing cricket in the summer, the same for a club, and then school at the weekends. So my weekends were totally preoccupied. And then I got to Cornwall. I just loved sports so much. And we had our first, what we call PE, physical education lesson. And they're like, right, lads, today we're doing weightlifting. And I was like, what the fuck? Weightlifting? I was like,
Weightlifting.
yeah.
You guys lift weights in school in the UK?
In Cornwall. Let's
Okay.
be very specific here. That was, that was in Cornwall. And if it wasn't weightlifting, it was rugby. And I'm a pussy. So like when guys came running at me with the ball, or if I had the ball, if I was lucky enough, I just, rugby wasn't for me.
Wow. And weightlifting, did you,
No, that's a failure. Total failure. And then they did play football, but for some reason I was really shit at football after I moved to Cornwall. So I was the first surf captain at Weybridge Comprehensive School.
what an honor.
That was a big
Do you have
honor.
like a plaque up there still? You should.
No, I don't have a plaque, but
We'll get one made for you.
yeah, I have one other. I have a surf trophy from the under 14 cadets Cornish Open. That was my first proper surf contest. And probably, apart from last year when I surfed for the club that my kids are part of now, my last one. So it was definitely a good 30 odd years gap in my competitive career.
Hey, did you get a trophy last year when you surfed with the club?
No.
So you've just got the one trophy so far.
If for people that don't know, like, so Billabong is part of the group with board riders. So we were getting our prizes at the end. I made the men's final in the what would be the equivalent of the Masters, and I won a DC cap.
Okay. Lucky.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Couldn't even give it to the kids because they've got so many Billabong caps. So I actually think it became a present for one of the parties they had to go to. Last minute present. You'll get used to this as your kid grows up. You have all these parties to go to on a Sunday, and all of a sudden there's this immense amount of pressure as to what present you're going to give to sort of so you look good in front of the other parents.
Yeah. Well, I guess next time I win a DC cap, I'll be sure not to throw it out.
Don't. It's a valuable commodity.
Nice. So when you said you were doing those caravan trips out and you moved to Cornwall, you starting to, like, when did you actually start surfing? Was it during those caravan trips, or was it when you actually moved there full time?
No, caravan trips. Had a 7-1 single fin. I remember my dad buying it from a car boot sale. It was like 50 Great British pounds. And my first wetsuit was one of those beaver tail things where it came up underneath the legs. And Jesus, you like wetsuits today, people don't realize how lucky they are. We used to have this thing called English rubber. It was like English neoprene, and it was stiff as cardboard. And even after that wetsuit and the wetsuits I had after that, they were still rock solid.
Just sounds like something the Royal Navy would have developed in like the 1700s.
Yeah,
They just didn't update the technology.
Terrible. And I had these mittens because I used to try and surf in February, and they were basically flat. They were two pieces of neoprene, like sewn either side, and bright green. Horrendous. Yeah, so that was how I started surfing Trianon Bay on the north coast of Cornwall. My brothers didn't take to it quite as quickly. But, you know, like everything, you move into a circle of friends who start surfing, and then it becomes a thing, get a bit of independence, and start going to the beach and surfing all the time. And then, you know, like anyone who does live near the beach and has that relaxed backdrop as a young kid growing up, start going to beach parties and having fun. It was a pretty damn cool life.
Yeah, it's not a bad one that we live.
Yeah. And, you know, another part of my life is where I surfed, there was a golf course right next to it. So when the surf was shit, I played golf, and probably spent too much time playing golf. I got down to 6 handicap, and at times it like overtook my surfing. And actually,
You're ahead of your time there. I feel like
yeah, now
there's a ton of surfers into golf now. You were an early adopter, I think.
I was an early adopter. I just didn't surf good enough to be like, I was recognized as a golfer and then somebody who surfed. I would love to have had it the other way around, because we all dream of surfing better. So
Nice. So how did you get started in the industry? Like, you're going to move there as a teen, and then
I think we can lift off from that reference to beach parties. You know, where I was living, so here we are in Erasira. It's a great town, and, you know, there's a strong economy here, and there's things for kids to do. I first came to Erasira when the Euro Champs was on, and even if I tried to recall the year of that, I think it was 2004. 2004? No, I'm looking around and nobody seems to know. It was a quiet town, super quiet town there. And I can remember, I could imagine it's similar to where I grew up on the outskirts of Newquay. And if you went to beach parties, there's not a lot of economy there. So kids started drinking real young. And because I'd come from London-ish, I'd seen a life that I wanted to be part of, which was in London. I wanted to have a career. And I didn't want to slide down the slope of drinking and then maybe being an electrician or being a builder, although that sort of came full circle because there's nothing more I'd love to do now than have a trade on my hands. And I guess I just all of a sudden just started working really hard at school, went away to university. And after I graduated, I got back in the summer and started doing some summer work. And out of the blue, I just got this phone call from an advertising agency in London. And they were like, hey, we've got a job going for 6 months. Do you want to come and do it? And I'd like literally just finished my degree and went to London and worked at this advertising agency. And then that was a great experience, but then they got bought by another company. And as happens with companies, you're like the last ones in, the most junior. So we're the first ones out when a company is bought another company and they're looking at what the hell they're going to do. But I still had this fire in my belly about, fuck, I want to stay in London. I want to get a career. And I knew through word of mouth, talking to people, that you could go and pretty much get a job. You know, you could go and work in retail. I just wanted to take some time so I could work out how I was going to get that real job. So I went and worked in Harrods, famous department store, and I worked underground during the Christmas period. They had this basement under the store where they packed all the boxes of china for like really rich families that they bought for their Christmas period. And I worked there for 6 months, packing china boxes, and then I got a break. I must credit my now wife, then girlfriend stroke friend, for giving me an opportunity. Well, she mentioned to a partner agency that was partner to the agency that she was working at that I was looking for a job, and I got a job at this PR agency. I'll try not to make this too long for everyone. And there was one day the agency won the Nike account. Which is pretty prestigious, you know, if you're in a marketing agency, to go and seek clients to have, and they won the Nike business. But I remember them coming downstairs and they were like, we know nothing about sport. And just pointed at me in my chair, you know, because they knew I was into sport. This is your chance. And I started working on the Nike business and became very good, very close to the then client. And I was working in public relations. So I was responsible for managing in the media, like the brand image, and, you know, replying to media inquiries about certain things that happened and trying to promote new innovations from Nike. We launched Nike Shocks. I did a lot of amazing things with football, meeting football teams, football players. It's all very glamorous to talk about it and describe it now. And then eventually the relationship became so strong that somebody moved on in the Nike department and I got invited to work at Nike. And about once a month I was driving back to Cornwall to go and surf even then. That period where I went and did the education thing, I definitely, the 6.0 Morris Cole that I had, spent a lot of time in my parents' shed. But as I got to about 20 and 22, I guess it was a bit of the stress of this London life. The Morris Cole came back out.
Came back out.
Come back
this way, Morris.
Yeah. And
we haven't forgot about you.
I realized it was one of those things like riding a bike, actually, bizarrely. And that's twice that happened to me. Once I snapped the ligament in my knee a few years after we're talking about now, and came back to surfing and, just paddled off the wave and popped out. And I was like, I thought it was going to be so much harder, like when you have this period of not surfing. But those breaks, I guess, cost me now at 49 years old when I like paddle out, and I want to be so much better.
I think everybody wants that though.
But it doesn't matter how good you are. I think if you've got that length of passion for surfing, you can't ever have it taken away from you. So I started doing a bit more surfing as I was working at Nike. And then, of course, I was there at during the period at Nike when Nike 6.0 was born.
Oh, baby.
Yeah, that was fun. And I remember vividly being at a sales conference in Florida. I can't remember whereabouts we were. And I just started working as the 6.0 brand marketing manager for the UK. And somebody comes up to me and is like, oh, tomorrow we're signing Julian Wilson. And I was like, don't be fucking stupid. He's been with Quiksilver for absolutely years. And, you know, I follow surfing. I'm into surfing. I know surfing. It's not going to happen. You know, they just released what was his first film? I can't remember.
Scratching the Surface?
I think I bought it a couple of weeks before. And I was like, there's no way. Sure enough, a week later,
the team.
Yeah, Julian is there. And it was funny. That was my first touch point of mixing my passion with my career, and trying to have a objective judgment over what's right for the business and what is right authentically for the industry and the narrative of surfing. And definitely at times it was compromised a bit, shall we say, just, you know, thinking about what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing. Also, you know, the budgets, it was very luxurious, the budgets that we had to spend so we could have a huge team. Even in Europe, we had a huge rider portfolio. Even in the UK, a nation that's not known for producing prolific surfing talents, even though it seems to be changing more recently. Back then, we had a big team. So that was super interesting.
When that news first came, like so you're at Nike for a few years, and then I know the Julian Wilson thing caught you off guard because you're like, he seems to have a very strong relationship with Quiksilver at this point. But how do you react generally to like the 6.0 stuff? Are you like, this is sick, like this is going to be awesome? Or you're like, whoa, this is not really the Nike that I know? Like what was your gut when you first heard that?
When it definitely, like, there was a period of transition where the gut thing was initially, I don't know if this is right. I'd been at Nike for so long, like with the focus on football and running, and I spent a long time as the brand manager of running, and we did some amazing things. We used to talk about Nike as a running company, and then the surfing thing, it was, and obviously 6.0 for people that don't know was 6.0 for the 6 sports. So it was like snowboard, wakeboard, surf. I'll never remember all of them. BMX.
Skate had to be one.
No, skate wasn't one because they had Nike SB.
Oh, really?
So they prayed around the periphery.
Like mountain biking or some shit?
Yeah, it was a bit like that. I tried to be like the
action
sports brand.
Adventure. Outdoors.
Yeah. And I don't know. Like even today, so many people have so many opinions about what brands shouldn't be doing. It's just really interesting looking back on it. So definitely there was a period where I was like, oh, okay, this is a bit of a challenge. But then, you know, at that point, Nike also owned Hurley, and they were talking together as businesses, similar to what environment I found myself in today with Quiksilver alongside Billabong. They were sharing some discussions on design, sharing some discussions on innovation. I started to get some board shots from Nike. I think I still got a few pairs somewhere around, and they're pretty damn good. So, and they tried some things. You know, they tried a no-fly, no Velcro. I was going to say no zipper, but a no-fly board short back then as an innovation. So they really tried to push things and bring some innovation to surfing. But we all know how bloody stubborn surfers are and the surf industry is in terms of acceptance. I think definitely Nike's approach changed some attitudes that were there at the beginning. And I remember seeing, you know, Huntington Surf and Sport, Ron John, some of those Huntington-based retailers, when I went there for work, had dedicated spaces to giving 6.0 room. What they did a very good job of, obviously, was borrowing from the footwear heritage and experience they got. So they could present this complete brand of apparel and footwear together. And there weren't many, if any, brands that had such strength in both areas, both apparel and footwear. So
nice. And so how long were you at Nike for all up?
14 and a half years.
Oh, that's a good stint.
Yeah. It was. I look back on it now, and people always, and particularly because my kids are like 10, 13 and 16 now, they kind of wish I was still there so they could get sneakers at a good price. But so it actually cost Dad a fortune because I first got them into sneakers, which was a total mistake of my own. But yeah, 14 and a half years, and I couldn't be more grateful and appreciative for all the people and the brand and the time that I had there. It was awesome learning curve. And it really gave me a grounding that helped me when I've moved on to my career, that obviously you would draw on. It's your like first major job. The reason I left, if anyone is interested, is I was being asked to move to Amsterdam. And it was at that point, I was so committed to surfing. This surfing thing had totally consumed my life. I'd bust my balls to buy a tiny little cottage in Cornwall that I was restoring with my wife at the weekends. And we were driving every Friday night from London down to Cornwall. For those of you that have done the drive or want some reference for it, it's like 4.5 hours if you're lucky, 5 hours generally. And then we drive back on Sunday night real late, get in at like 2 a.m. And then I go to work the next day and a few people would be like, hey, Si, you've got like white paint all down the back of your head.
Wow.
So when they asked me to move to Amsterdam, I had this, what I thought was a perfect life, even though I still wasn't surfing great. But I was, working really hard and doing what I'd always wanted to, having a career in London during the week and then going surfing at the weekend. It was awesome. So we went and had a look at Amsterdam. I think Poppy was just born then, my eldest daughter. Oh no, she would have been well born by then. Maybe Dylan was around then. We went to Scheveningen, which is the Netherlands' prime surfing town. It was fucking freezing, but it was really sunny. It was like, this is the best day for ages. And I'm looking at the sea and it's like 1 foot and on shore. And I'm like, babe, I don't know if I can do this. So I took a pretty bold decision to leave then and was unsure what I was going to do, but I was like, I'm going to do something. I had this thing where I was like, I think it's amazing that all these people have been famous. They write their autobiographies. And I was like, obviously I'm never going to write an autobiography. It's a privilege to even come and chat here about my life. And I hope it inspires somebody somewhere. But I just thought about my autobiography and I wanted it to be able to have more than one chapter. And I didn't want Nike to define who I was and become something that consumed my life. So I wanted to go and prove that I could cut it somewhere else in the world. I was doing a bit of work with JD Sports, which is a famous footwear retailer in the UK, and the marketing director there asked me to do some freelance work. So I freelanced for him 3 days a week. And then I wrote Finisterre, which is a small surf brand that's making waves globally now. They positioned themselves back then. It's slightly changed. Their position is a cold water surf brand based on the cliffs in North Cornwall. I wrote Tom, who's the founder, a letter about how I just spent 15 years at Nike and felt as if I could help his business. And I got some freelance 2 days a week there.
Wow.
So that was super cool. But I was living in London. I had to get the train at 5 o'clock in the morning to Manchester, to where JD Sports was based. I then get a taxi across town, which is 30 minutes. I got to the office about 9:30 and I was knackered already on a Monday morning. I then stayed in a hotel in Manchester on my own, pretty lonely, didn't know anyone up there. Come back to my house in London, work a day for JD from home. And then I got the night train on Wednesday nights down to Cornwall because I couldn't just my kids, that's right, because Poppy was one, I couldn't just take them out of school just because I was going to do a day's work. So I used to get the night train from Paddington down to Truro. Tom very kindly came and picked me up occasionally. We went for a little surf because the night train gets in at 5 a.m. So went and surfed somewhere if the surf was good. Then I did 2 days work for Finisterre. Finisterre was a beautiful company, beautiful culture. And everyone on Friday nights at 5 o'clock was going, hey, we're going to the pub for a beer. And I was like, great, get on the train and go 5 hours back to London. And that was the point where we weren't coming and going much because I was coming up the country rather than we were going down. We boarded some holidays as a family down there so I could work and then we could go into a holiday period. And that's what I did. But you can imagine, so I was moody, I was tired, I was coming home when I did do that North trip, and my wife was just like, how long can you do this for? I think I managed 9 to 12 months, maybe a bit longer. And maybe I'll just share a quick little story just so it doesn't all look like this perfect thing of things that fell into place. I got approached by a gambling company called Paddy Power. And
Sure, I'm familiar with them.
if you're familiar with them, you'll know that their marketing is, back then it was, I was going to say genius, but it was definitely up there with brands that were like, had such a strong personality, such a strong equity in their brand, and they put it across. And as a guy who just loves brands and loves marketing, I was just like, this is going to be insane, wicked. I can't wait to go and do this after what I've been doing. A new sector, you know, like gambling. And then started thinking about gambling a bit after I'd signed the contract and was like, fuck, is this like really ethical? Like, is this cool that I want, you know, because I knew I'd read a bit more about how, you know, there's quite a lot of in the press in the UK about legislation to prevent gambling becoming addictive. And in my first couple of weeks there, I got asked to do a retail tour of the betting stores. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Makes sense. So I got asked to meet in North London at 7 a.m. And I started walking around these shops with the then, like, must have been the North London retail director or whatever. It's fucking 7 in the morning. There's all these guys that are like builders, hardworking guys in the betting shops already putting money into these machines.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. I remember like going back to the office then. I probably got back at lunchtime then and just sat over lunch thinking, so, are you all right with this, Si? I was like, and then luckily in one way, could have become something. There was some big politics going on with the senior management there that I was witnessing, and I was thinking, because I essentially got bought in and it bumpered some people out of the way and it didn't sit comfortably, so I wasn't sitting there in a very harmonious environment. But then Paddy Power got bought by a bigger, richer gambling company, and luckily, as I was the last one in, I got made redundant. I got a small payout, but then I really shit myself. I was like, what am I going to do now? Because by that time, I think Reef, my youngest child, who's now 10, had just been born. And when you become a parent and you've got 3 children and a mortgage, a house in London, and luckily I had a small mortgage on that house in Cornwall, I was like, how's this going to work?
Yeah.
I remember definitely having some phone calls with my parents going, there's no book on Amazon for how you get out of this shit. And I just remember just like, it was pretty soul destroying. And anyone that's been in this situation, I feel for them having had the situation, and I hope they came out of it in the right way. I just put my head down. I tried to timetable my life. I dropped the kids at school then. Mel went and did some freelance PR work. She was a very successful PR professional. And I used to go for a run for 10K along the Thames, touch Fulham football grounds. I'm not a Fulham football ground fan, but it was just my marker for the end of my route. And then I'd come back and then I'd get on LinkedIn for 2 hours in a day. And all the things that I'd done stupidly by putting my head down at Nike and working really hard, I realized then how important it was to have a network of people that you know and you were friends with and you're connected with. And so many applications for jobs, interviews, Surf Dome, a company back then, UK, online surf business, passionate surfer, been working at Nike. Hey guys, I really believe I can offer a lot to your business. Yeah, but what do you know about digital marketing? And I was like, well, you know, and sometimes I didn't have the answer, and I totally screwed up the interview and I didn't get the job, which I thought I was a shoo-in for. So there was a couple of moments where I was just like really low thinking, what the fuck am I going to do? And then I saw somehow this job at Vans in Switzerland. It had 870 applications already. There's this like little ticker on LinkedIn.
Oh, that's like
and I was like, what chance have I got? And then I just got lucky. I just obviously drew on my experience at Nike and the credibility that 14 years at Nike had given me. I lent on my surfing knowledge and a bit my limited skateboarding knowledge. And I think I had enough of a hook to interest them. I was also crazy enough to want to move to this part of the world, which was the next chapter and was an adventure for my family, which was northern Italy, very southern Switzerland. We lived in Italy and I went to work in Switzerland each day. And that was super cool for 3 years, but it was definitely had all the hallmarks of the things that challenged me at Nike, like big corporation, learning to behave, learning how you respond to emails without saying, what the fuck? Sure. You know, that is when you really need to say that, or you just lose your temper because you've just got to be so diplomatic in these corporate environments. But it was never going to, like, I'm lucky that I'm an expat in Southwest France now, and you've done your time in Southwest France. You can fumble your way through French and enough of an international community of surfers and people that live in Southwest France. We're talking Varese, which is classified as a city in northern Italy, and you go to the supermarket and no one in there spoke English. Yeah. So trying to find an avocado was challenging. And just after 3 years, it became a chance to look around. And then, oh my God, there was this job, which is when we first came to be acquainted, which was like global head of marketing for water at Quiksilver. And my first ever surf trip when I was 12 years old, my mom had taken me to Biarritz, and I'd always wanted a pair of Quickie board shorts. And I went and knocked on what was the factory in Saint-Jean-de-Luz, which we still have the premises of in the Board Riders Company now, which is the discount store, but it used to be the factory. And I went there and I remember them vividly. They were stitching war paint snow jackets. And I was like, hey, do you have any board shorts or anything like that? And they just like, in French, they were just like, go the hell away. This is
working here,
yeah,
kid.
This is the factory. So I had this connection from 12 years old where the sun always shined, the surf was amazing. I just wanted to live in Southwest France so much. And all those years at Nike, at Vans, even the period in between with the freelancing for JD and Finisterre, it was an annual pilgrimage for my wife and I. The ferry from Portsmouth to Bilbao or Santander, and because you had that 16 hours on the ferry, spotting whales, being with the kids, just helped us. We went on the ferry because you could pack the car, take as many surfboards as you wanted, but it became an annual pilgrimage. And all we ever talked about when we were there was like, how are we going to get here? How are we going to live in Southwest France? Is all we wanted to do. So when this job came up, oh my God, we were actually in Southwest France, and I was like shaking because I was like so like wanted to prove that I could do this job. And I remember coming and meeting Gary and Billy, who were then like responsible for the recruitment. I'd met Gary a couple of years before, coincidentally, and I just couldn't stop thinking about this job and how much I wanted to get it. And even now, my body language changing because I just remember that point. And then the day I got it, I was just like, holy shit. After being privileged enough to work at Nike for 14.5 years, work at Vans for 3 years, to get another, in my perspective then, was an incredible job, was insane. It was definitely a tricky time, as you will know, to join Quiksilver and to work at Quiksilver. I remember having been just like 3 weeks, and somebody was like, rumored about moving marketing to California, and I was just like freaking. Yeah, I was like,
I beg your pardon?
Fuck?
Oh yeah, that was definitely.
And then COVID happened as well, and then I was just like, God,
what's going on
within
here?
3 months of my starting of the job, I was like, there's no way that they're going to let me survive. And I think somehow it was all so chaotic for everyone in the world, COVID, that it didn't even like register for them to think about the 3-month probationary period. I actually, in fact, in the last week, I was so scared. I asked about it and they were like, oh yeah, don't even worry about it. So after that 3-month probation period passed, that was when huge sigh of relief, massive excitement, working for Quiksilver. I've got a picture of me at that time when I did that surf trip with my mom. It was just me and my mom came to Biarritz. I've got a natural rhythm surfboard, which was an old one of Randall Davis's. He was a young guy who sadly passed away of leukemia. He was like Spencer Hargreaves' main rival in the UK for surfing. And it was one of Randall's old boards and it had Quiksilver stickers all over it. And I'd used it, I kind of bring that out and show it to some people occasionally, because it just to try and illustrate the desire that it was to work for Quiksilver. That 2-week rumor of moving to California turned into 18 months of stress and anxiety, even though I was doing a job that I had a huge amount of passion for and wasn't quite as glamorous as I thought. Some of the athletes, and we won't name any names, pretty fucking demanding that I was looking after, and pretty disrespectful.
Forward in my mind.
Pretty disrespectful in terms of what their expectation was. Definitely had a different upbringing to me. The fact that they could demand wetsuits to be sent to them around the world the next day, so it was there ready for when they arrived. Those kind of things happening. But eventually, that thing moving to California did happen. And I went and saw Gary at the time, was like, buddy, I should be able to expense to you guys the amount of alcohol that I'm drinking to deal with this stress at the moment. I said, just do me one favor. Do not put my name on that list to go to California. I have absolutely zero desire to go and work and live in California. So there's nothing against the people or the place, but it is about the people and the place. And Southwest France, for me and my family, has just become this incredible place. And probably I feel as if I hate cats, but maybe I have got 9 lives, because it was at that point that Shannon North, who's very well established and senior member of the board riders team, but had led Billabong for many years, something I must have said in one meeting must have made some sense to him, because he phoned me up out of the blue and said, I'd really like you to work in marketing for Billabong. And it was another one of those lives. And then it was a bit of a challenge, because it's the regional job. So technically, if you've got an ego, it would have been a bit of a step back. But a gentleman called Frank Voigt, who's a lovely guy who runs his own company now, I didn't know at the time, was sort of moonlighting and freelancing as the general manager. And after 3 months, turned around to the business and said, look, I've got to focus on my own brand, because I think Simon would be amazing as the general manager. And I stalled for a bit, because I was like, oh my God, how much pressure is that going to put me under? Like, just been through all that stress of Quiksilver and, having to leave that brand, and just want some bloody security and no one be stressed out all the time. And I took the general manager job, I think nearly 4 years ago now, and it's been incredible. And I just try to live every day with an open perspective. I try to push our team of riders as hard as I can, but I also try to listen to them and help them. I have a smallish team, 15 folks who are designing some product, merchandising, assorting the range that we bring to market, and then the now marketing team that probably get really pissed off with me because my background's in marketing. So every time they've got something, I always giving them an opinion that they probably do not want at all. And we're doing well, we're growing. We've had our challenges with the way Billabong's been organized globally, but the passion within that team is shared across all of those guys. Everyone feels as if they've got a stake in Billabong, and I get text messages from all of them when they see things that they don't like, which really illustrates the passion that they have. And we're trying to, not that people need to know this, but the way Billabong's set up now, all of these surf brands, there's a bit more independence for each of the brands in each of the regions. So like I say, I look after Europe now with this team, and we got a bit more independence, and we're finding our way and how we're going to create the future for Billabong here in Europe.
Nice. You brought up a really interesting point before. Even if somebody's texting you something saying they dislike it, that's so much better than them just not even caring anymore, just going hands off. Just like, at least they're invested. At least they're saying, realize they have a stake in it and want to see the best for the brand. That's a really interesting way to think about that.
For sure.
And I think it's a good point.
However, in French culture, it's a bit of a regular point to pick holes at things and look at things slightly in the negative way.
Sure.
But I use it. I try to use it to fuel us to do better. I try and course correct when it gets too negative as well.
Sure.
And make people realize that actually working for Billabong, a company that gives you an hour and a half off at lunchtime, which is less than 2K away from Lafitania, not the best right-hand point break in the world, but on its day, it's pretty damn good. And yeah, if you can fight your way through 50 people all like battle it out on the peak, it's not a bad life to be located in that office, that part of the world, and having the opportunity to go surfing. I absolutely love it.
That's another funny thing too. I feel like, obviously, like you said, and like we've kind of seen with some of these brands when we were even working together at Quiksilver, they change hands, and the general public can have this idea that like it's not surf anymore. It's like not run by surfers, and you're like, okay, yeah, I get that it's owned by other people, and any big profit that's collected is going to be more heavily distributed to them. That's fair, true. But working in an office like that, you're like, look at it at 12:30 when there's waves. Every single person is going surfing. Like these, as much as people like to think things have changed with these new ownerships and everything, it's like, no, these things are still run by people who like just really love to surf and really care about what it means to be a surfer and the products that surfers can use.
I mean, it's similar to this. It's like I've taken my daughter and all my family on surf trips, as I mentioned earlier, like Sri Lanka, Maldives. My daughter and I are privileged enough to go to the Mentawais last year, and people are always like, where did you surf? And I've taught her, don't tell people where we went surfing, because you'll be sure tomorrow when you paddle out there'll be 4 more people. That happens in the office now as well. People don't tell each other where they're going surfing, because if you go to Bida on a pushing mid-tide, there can be 50 people in there from board riders. So,
easy. Yeah. Don't go there at 12:30 is a lesson to anybody visiting. 12:30 on a weekday, avoid that stretch, even no matter what the tide's doing. It's not going to be 2 p.m. they'll be gone.
My beautiful wife, who's a yoga instructor, timetables her yoga lessons around the board riders population at Bidar, so she can go for a surf at 2:00.
Brilliant.
Not get dropped in on or hassled.
Oh, that's awesome. When you look back at this crazy journey, which I love that it started in a basement somewhere. I feel like every
basement in Harrods.
Yeah. Sometimes people are in it's packing boxes in a basement. I feel like you got to kind of start. So that's always the beginning of well, not always the beginning of a good story, but when a story ends with a role like general manager, I think it is nice when it ties all the way back to a basement somewhere, packing boxes, even if those boxes are full of china. You mentioned before the kind of obsessive way that you looked at your job at Nike, like the amount of passion you brought to that and intensity. What other things do you think you did right that brought you here in your life that maybe could even be applied by younger people who would envy a position like yours?
I bought my son a surfboard yesterday, and he said to me, "Oh, did your mum and dad used to buy you surfboards like you bought me, Dad?" And I was like, "No, sorry, Dylan. I didn't have the luck and opportunity that you had, and I really want you to realize that." I said, every surfboard that I've bought, apart from that 50 pound one at the car boot sale that started, I bought myself. Even though my parents did move from London to Cornwall, I spent most of my summers working in their restaurant for them to make it a success, serving coffee, serving dinners, serving breakfasts. And it taught me that you need to work hard in life. And if you don't work hard in life, it's tough for you. Okay, some people will have privileges and opportunities, but for some that, we weren't poor, like we had enough food. We never went on international holidays really, but everything I got and I tried to realize was a result of how hard I worked, and I just really value that now in a way, because it's what drove me to work harder. I think for kids today, I think that still applies. I think I would try and encourage any kids to not get distracted. And I genuinely believe that if you have dreams, you can realize those dreams. And, I see it when kids qualify for the Challenger Series last week. I see it when people do get careers, or when I've offered people jobs, and, you see what it means to them and things like that. And if you really, really, really want something, I believe you can make it happen.
Nice. What about in terms of like getting a foot in the door in the surf industry? What advice would you have on that front?
I think be super humble. I think also, like, geez, I interview some people, and like I had to change a job description recently, and to put on there mandatory passion or understanding of the surf industry, not in a snobbish or like exclusive mindset, but you have to have some understanding of the subject matter that you're going to talk about. So that's a good start. And then I just think super humble. I mean, shit, I still go and look for samples in boxes when the guys from the UK call me, like they did a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, we're going to lose business unless we can get these samples. I think don't also assume that because it's the surf industry, particularly in today's day and age, that there's a laissez-faire approach to it. You're like, we need people, modern people with strong educations, particularly grounded in, the digital world that we live in today, and understanding and bringing new ideas. But you always need to be careful with that. I've seen a couple of interns recently. There's one intern that was trying to come over from the Roxy brand to the Billabong brand. And then I got a message from the guys there saying, hey, I should be careful. He's he or she is not the best person to necessarily take, can be perceived as being a bit arrogant. And, there's a fine line between that humbleness, willing to work, and then thinking you know it all. And, you just give some time, work extra hours. I always, when people do ask me about careers, I kind of use this shitty analogy, and anyone who's worked with me in teams has experienced Simon's shitty analogies. If it's not my shitty handwriting, they've had my shitty analogies.
You ever combine them both? Just give them a handwritten shitty analogy?
One girl used to work with me at Vans. She's Italian. She had such an amazing personality. She just said to me at the end, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Yeah. She said, you should have been a doctor. It's always stayed with me. Sorry, no, the one analogy I have for kids to think a bit about is a supermarket. And you think about when you go into a supermarket, how many things there are to choose from. Pretend you are said thing, and the company is the picker, like the shopper. Why am I going to pick you? And I think you've got to show something unique. Be it in your attitude, be it in your CV, be it in your willingness. You got to try and give that little angle of something, it's the same for the kids that we sponsor today, even in Billabong, they're semi-employees, aren't they? And we're picking them, and attitude and approach and manners and courtesy, wow, just goes so far, I think, in life that in today's day and age, with what social media has created and what I'm witnessing with my family as well, it's easy for those fundamentals that maybe I'm old school in my generation, but I can't help thinking that those grounded principles are fundamental, hard work and decent manners.
Nice. Well, I've only got one more question for you. You mentioned that childhood trip to France where you fell in love with it and you were under the impression that it was always sunny. Now that you've been living there for a while, can you confirm whether or not that's true?
Oh, I thought people always used to take the piss out of me because I came from England. They were always like, it rains there. in thick French accents. I'm like, fuck, you guys will look in the mirror. The Basque Country, it rains.
Well, there you have it. Confirmed. It does rain in the Basque Country. Simon, thanks for the time.
Oh,
Good
it's
stuff.
awesome. Take care, buddy. Thank you.
Good.
Ah.
Because the sun is right in your eyes.
Give me a sign.